Over the years, Long Island has served as a bastion of GOP seats in the state Senate, but recent trends have made the island turn from a dark red to sort of a shade of purple. Democrat James Gaughran is looking to continue that trend and ride a blue wave to Albany and unseat GOP incumbent Carl Marcellino this November. Gaughran joins us now on the Capitol Press Room. Great to talk to you.
How are you, Susan? Thank you very much.
Yeah. You have quite a history in elective office. Can you tell my listeners about yourself?
Sure. Well, it was quite a while ago, but I did serve on the Huntington Town Board as a councilman. I was actually the youngest person ever elected in the history of Huntington, which is about half the Senate district, when I was 26 years old. And after that, I served 3 years in the Suffolk County legislature.
All right. Tell us about you. Are you married? Do you have a family? Where'd you go to school?
Yep, I am married. My wife, Carol, is actually a library media specialist and a public school teacher. I have two children, Michael and Caitlin, both of whom are out of the house working on their own, and went to Hofstra Law School, and before that I went to Stony Brook University.
Oh, so you're like Long Island through and through.
Yes, I'm a product of the state university system as well.
In 2016, you put up a challenge to the senator with a final vote going 51 to 49. Why are you confident you'll be able to unseat Marcellino this time around?
Well, we came very close last time, and I really believe that the voters of this district want to change. The issues that I raised 2 years ago, nothing has happened in Albany in the last 2 years, particularly on the issue of corruption and dysfunction in the New York State Senate. They have done nothing to try to take away the ability of senators to use their office for their own personal benefit. And this is creating gridlock. This is stopping progress from moving forward in New York State. And I actually believe, and I hear this every day when I'm out knocking on hundreds of doors a day, that voters are very concerned about the change in Washington, particularly the Trump tax code is really going to hammer taxpayers of Long Island. And they want a senator that is going to be a champion to stand up against that, but also fight for the real reforms we need to make New York work again.
So Carl Marcellino has been a school teacher and an advocate for education, and education is always traditionally a very big issue for Long Islanders. How are your policies around education different from those of Marcellino's?
Well, first of all, I believe very strongly that funding public education really needs to be the number one budgetary priority of anybody in the state legislature.
I think it is. I mean, it
will be my number one priority, and I think we really need to make sure that we get more funding, including for the residents of Long Island. I don't think we're getting our fair share, so we need more funding to go into the public schools, and that is something that will be absolutely on the top of my list.
There is a sense in other parts of the state that Long Island gets more than its fair share. What would be an argument you would use with a state senator from another part of the state who makes that argument to you?
That is just not true. Look at the math. Approximately every $3 we send to Albany in the taxes that we pay as Long Islanders, we only get $1 back. And I recognize we're all one state. Everybody has to work together. If upstate does well, if the city does well, if Long Island does well, particularly our economy, there is more money for public schools. There's more money for infrastructure. But Long Island is not the Hamptons. I think that's one of the misconceptions, is that a lot of people sometimes just think we all live in the Hamptons. No, we have particularly in my district, some of the poorest neighborhoods that are struggling in the United States of America. And so I'm going to fight very hard to represent everybody.
So what do you do when you have a district like, for example, Roosevelt, that the state takes over and just doesn't seem to be able to turn it around? What would you recommend?
Well, I think you need strong local control, and obviously when you have situations like Roosevelt, which isn't in my district, there needs to be somebody from the outside stepping in. But one of the problems we have in Albany is that there is too many mandates that are imposed on some of the schools, and we don't have enough local control in many cases. And I know the school districts in the 5th Senatorial District, these are all great districts with super teachers that work very hard, and activists, PTA members, and parents that get involved in their kids' education. But many of them are struggling to get the funds that they need. And the other major issue we have on Long Island is the property taxes that we're paying. And I think it's very important that the state really begins to address the issue of so much of a reliance on property taxes to fund local schools. I think we need to get more money out of state revenue to take the burden off the local property taxes. And it's not something that we can do immediately, but I think we gradually have to move in that direction.
You are a proponent of the property tax cap, I would assume.
Absolutely. The cap is something that is necessary, and thank God we have it, because with Trump taking away the ability of people to really use their property tax deduction, I can't even imagine how much worse it would be if we didn't have that tax cap in place.
There is some sense that, there's not a sense. The Republicans in the state Senate have been very generous to the charter schools, along with some Democrats. Do you think that that should continue, that charter schools, per student should get just as much money as the public school kids?
I believe we need to put more funding into the traditional public schools, particularly here on Long Island. And any money that is taken away from public schools only hurts the kids.
One of the issues outlined in your platform is passing the Child Victims Act, which has never passed the state Senate, and it's a big issue year after year. This session, GOP Senator Kathy Young proposed a compromise bill called the Child Victims Fund, which doesn't include that all-important look-back window. Would you support legislation that didn't?
No, I would like to see the Child Victims Act pass as it exists now, and there are so many people that will vote for it, including Republicans. It's just a question that the leadership in the Senate, which, by the way, includes Senator Marcellino, my opponent, they refuse to allow it to the floor. This bill has been written, it's been vetted, there's been hearings held. I think it could be passed first thing in January, and I win, I could possibly be the deciding vote. I talk to people around my district who have struggled with this issue, who were victims themselves. And what every single one says to me is, Jim, we're not looking for money. We're not looking for a payday. The reason we want to bring these suits, which we know are going to be difficult to win because you're going back over so many years, is because we still see the people who victimize us walking around the neighborhood, and there are other kids in the neighborhood. And yes, we want justice, but mostly we want to try to protect the kids of today.
So, James Gaughran, where can people find out more about you? GaughranForStateSenate.com. If you win, what kind of chairmanships or committee assignments would you be looking for?
I'm not looking that far ahead. I think that is something that is less important to me in terms of titles and positions, but really to try to do something about some of the issues that I'm concerned about. Clearly, education, and I could be on the education committee. That would be wonderful. It's of utmost importance to the residents of my district. I'm very involved in environmental issues. Protecting our drinking water is something that I'm concerned about. And overall, I really want to fight to try to see if we can get some major ethics reforms passed.
We've been speaking with James Gaughran. He's a Democrat challenging Republican State Senator Carl Marcellino in Long Island's 5th District. Thank you again.
Thank you so much, Susan. I really appreciate it.
Support for the Capitol Press Room is provided by Politico New York, a trusted source of politics and policy news throughout the Empire State. Readers go beyond the headlines to discover what's driving the day at Politico.com/New York.